sold a product every 19 seconds. We did 6 figures in the 12 hours.
That is wild.
I was suddenly starting to feel out of control. It was absolute chaos and carnage.
Meet Daisy Kelly, the 25-year-old who built a 100K a day brand, all from her parents' kitchen.
It was me and a camera and a dream. Like, that's all we had.
Armed with a very personal mission, Daisy has built Glow For It into one of the leading beauty brands on TikTok.
My habit to cope with the anxiety was picking out my eyelashes. It was as much a personal journey as it was building a brand.
Tune in to hear her multi-million-pound strategy as she breaks down her playbook for TikTok Shop.
Consistency is the most important thing. We go live for at least 3 hours a day. One for the algorithm, also for the customer. Average watch time on a live is about 30 seconds. We've managed to get that up to 5 minutes.
Believe us when we say, this is not one to miss.
Like, my accountant still calls it a hobby that got completely out of control. And if it was out of control then, it's like completely out of control now. That's actually brilliant.
I think what we need to do is dive back to the origin story a little bit. So obviously, like, when we look at you as a founder, when we look at the brand, you have an interesting journey kind of going from drama school, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Through to starting a company during lockdown. So do you want to take us back to like 2019, 2020?
Yeah, I'll take you back to the early days. Yeah, it's been quite a kind of change of events. I had always loved to perform, always into my dancing, singing. And I think more so I was told by everyone around me that I was good at it, and kind of that fuels that momentum towards like a certain avenue. I'm severely dyslexic and not the most academic, but I always, this will put into perspective, they had a prize at my secondary school and it was called the Peters Prize for Enthusiasm. And I won it multiple years in a row, which is like not the best prize, but like I wasn't great at anything, but I was really enthusiastic about everything.
That's kind of half the battle a lot of the time.
Yeah, so I had the self-belief and the momentum, just maybe not the skill set, but performing was one avenue where I would always get kind of praise for actually having the talent there. So I followed that and went to drama school for sixth form. And during my time there, I was juggling half-time performing and dance classes, and then half-time my A-levels. And then from that school got into Guildford School of Acting, which was a real kind of moment. There's, what would you say, Thomas, like 35,000 applicants or something like that? About 40,000 applicants. Wow. And then there's, in our year, there were 12 girls on the course. So like getting into that school was a real moment of, okay, so other people are kind of seeing that potential in me as well. So that, again, that kind of drove that momentum to kind of carry on down that career path. But yeah, during my time at drama school, I kind of quickly started to question the industry in general and just kind of my role within that and maybe how that would play out. I was just starting to lose a lot of confidence in my ability, starting to question things like the way I looked, which, I don't know, from the way I was brought up, just had never really been a priority. Everything was so much more about what you could achieve. And from my family always being a nice, kind person, like that was the priorities that were instilled in me. And suddenly I was like, oh, as soon as I get into a room, people are judging me on the way I look before anything else. And I didn't have the opportunity to prove your talent before that. So I think I definitely had from the start my why. So our hero product is our lash serum, if people aren't familiar. And that was quite a natural progression of a product to develop. While I was at drama school, as we've touched on, my kind of tick or habit to cope with the anxiety I was experiencing was picking out my eyelashes and making wishes with them. So it had always been kind of an association for me of like, okay, I'm stressed, I'll pick out my lashes. And when we got to lockdown, I was kind of faced with, okay, I've got little to no natural lashes left. So that initial spark for a product was quite seamless because I knew the product I needed to create for myself. And it just so happened that there were people out there who also were looking for that as well. So yeah, it was as much a kind of personal journey of like me regaining my confidence as it was building a brand, but that was never the goal or intention. Like,
so was it kind of like a hobby that turned into a business, or was it always planned as a business?
Oh, absolutely a hobby. Like, my accountant still calls it a hobby that got completely out of control. And now, if it was out of control then, it's like completely out of control now. Yeah, never sat down with like this 5-year business plan. And I think there's so many pros to doing that. And if I was to sit down and start a new business tomorrow, absolutely, that would be the way I would go about it.
Yeah.
But there was also such a beauty in just like the naivety of going on that journey and the experience that I knew nothing about. And then the surprises that came along the way, even if I'd sat down then, I had such limited knowledge that I don't think I could have pre-planned anything or the experience we were going to have.
So what did those early days kind of look like? Okay, so you decide, okay, there's a gap here for this particular product. It's something that obviously it's solving a need that you have.
Yeah.
Always great when that's the case when you're starting any business. Where did you actually source the product from, and what did kind of like early manufacturing look like?
Yeah, so two of the key kind of aspects for me, basically a lot of the serums on the market, because it's not a saturated market hugely, it's still quite a niche, but there are other products available. One of which was price point. A lot of products that sit within that realm are kind of £100 plus. I was an emerging student. It's also a product that you have to continuously use to see results. I couldn't kind of forecast seeing myself being able to purchase that long term to see the sustained results. And number two was a lot of them utilize an ingredient called PGAs or prostaglandin analogues, which can give you great results, but often can be associated with negative side effects like pigmentation and discoloration. And it was an ingredient I was aware of because it is used or was initially developed in the treatment for glaucoma, which my grandpa has. So he has these eye drops that contain prostaglandins, and they were growing his eyelashes absolutely, like, incredibly. My grandma has to trim them down still to this day. Like, the lashes just keep growing. And I was like, wow, these eye drops are obviously doing some amazing things. But I was aware of the ingredient and kind of some of the side effects that people were experiencing. So kind of my two initial sparks were, okay, how can we get this in a price point that's manageable for people of my age and demographic?
Yep.
And is it possible to still see those results without necessarily using that product? So that was my initial two. My third was that I'd always wanted it to be made and formulated in the UK, but particularly in cosmetics, the MOQs are high. And right from the get-go, I reached out to manufacturers in the UK and was quickly kind of faced with that challenge. Yeah. But I still continued those conversations with the UK manufacturers. And actually, in the end, what is our Glow For It serum now took 3 years all in to bring to market, because it took me that amount of time, of one, to build up the cash to pay for the initial PO, but also to develop here in the UK as a slower process. So I had some chats with the UK, also in Asia. Initially, we launched with a formula I developed over in Asia. It was a quicker process, but in the meantime, basically, the funds that we were producing from that serum was going into the long-term goal of being able to launch our UK formula.
Gotcha.
So I would guess a bit more strategy came into play there, because it was just what's possible with what I have right now. I literally had £300 in my bank account from my student loan. So forking out the tens, now hundreds of thousands we pay for POs in the UK was just not financially an option. And I was still at such early days. I had no idea that the business was going to, well, now, these years down the line, be my full-time job, we'd have a team, or that I would be in a place to kind of be able to see that long-term progress. So I did the best with what was available at the time, but still maintain those conversations to be able to kind of not tick off, but achieve that long-term goal.
Because it's very unique for kind of beauty brands to be manufacturing within the UK, yeah?
Yeah.
Like a lot of the ones that we kind of, people know and love today, it's mostly sourced from Asia. That's just kind of like the standard. So very, very difficult process. Has it impacted like pricing and stuff like that since you've been managed to pull everything
back to the UK? It was interesting. At the start, I definitely, as I say, didn't have the option. The price point was one thing, but at the MOQ, so the minimum order quantity that I could physically reach, the price point was way too high to be able to offer the price point to my customers that I wanted to. So we had to build up the customer base, the momentum, to be able to move it across to the UK, to have a kind of higher volume of initial order quantity that I could reduce the price down. So now, by the time it came to actually launching the Glow For It serum, which is made and formulated in the UK, we were able to actually undercut the price that we were seeing from Asia. But initially, that never would have been feasible. And equally, I probably would have had to charge 60 to 80 pound for the serum and lose what is our key customer demographic now. So I guess we had to sacrifice things in the beginning, which didn't sit with me wholly comfortably. But I always knew that there was that long-term goal to be able to have it made there. And I can also understand why people don't opt for that. It is a challenge, but there is nothing I love more now than every single product we develop. I get on a train up to the north of England. I'm there on the production line, filling the first run. I'm in the lab, working the multiple rounds of formulas and samples. Like I thrive off being that hands-on. And that to me is it's not something I take for granted. You know, I know lots of people that they're not able to be that hands-on with the process.
And showing that process has obviously become a huge part of what your brand is.
Yeah.
You're incredibly transparent around your ingredients and everything like that, but also ton of behind the scenes content that ends up getting created with Glow For It. And since the get-go, so like you were, I think everybody these days, every brand that's starting out, they're trying to do behind the scenes content, founder-led content, a lot of them incredibly badly. You guys have kind of nailed it from the beginning. Where did the kind of idea come from back in, was it 2020? When you kind of posted your first TikTok, and like very early on, that would have been videos of you in your house, packaging orders, all that sort of stuff, and no one was really doing it.
I would love to say that there was a big strategy, you know, needle moving moment where I thought, okay, I can be unlike any of our competitors and really put myself at the forefront. Transparently, we didn't have another option. It was me and a camera and a dream. Like, that's all we had. And I think because of my background, I was initially very comfortable with putting myself at the forefront. I will preface that by saying, like, lots of people around me were very wary of that. They were kind of saying, are you sure you want to put yourself out there? Once you've done that, there's kind of not a lot of turning back. I know a lot of male founders in my network who have chosen not to go down that avenue. They kind of still stay behind the scenes and have had incredible business that have thrived. But I just felt, for me, my personality and also what I wanted Glow For It to be and to become, it felt very authentic and transparent to put myself out there. And ultimately, I had developed the product for me, and I knew there were people out there like me who would relate to that. So initially, it kind of completely broke down those barriers that I think if I hadn't have done that in those early stages would have been a challenge.
Have you experienced any like downside from doing it, like what they were warning you about beforehand, or has it been pretty smooth?
I would say anytime you do that, you open yourself up. And I wouldn't say I found that from customers or socials, but you do open yourself up to the broader beauty industry. And I think I started the business when I was 21. I'm still only 25. I didn't have corporate background experience. I think my naivety, whilst it was a superpower, was also an opportunity for people to kind of exploit. So I do understand. I think people around me were just trying to make sure I was safe.
So just to jump back a little bit, okay? So we're 2020, you've launched the brand, you've decided on TikTok as kind of like your core channel, which I think was like a little bit unique back then. Like when you look at like other beauty brands or brands in general that were being founded at the time, Instagram was the channel that you went after. Why did you choose TikTok at the time as kind of your core channel from an awareness point of view? And how quickly did you kind of start to see success there? Was it like an overnight thing, or was it really a case of like building it up over the course of a few months or a year?
It was pretty crazy, to be honest. And I would say still to this day, and especially when I look back, we were very much an early adopter onto the platform, and that had huge benefits. And even I see, you know, heritage brands trying to come onto the platform now and have impact and really struggling, even though they've got huge brand awareness, because it is so saturated now, and we really reap the rewards of being those early adopters. So I would say quite quickly we built that traction. one of the key benefits for us is that the product is transformative. So we can showcase those results, and very early on, just me showcasing my own transformation was having kind of crazy impact on the algorithm. And I think I also, I remember there was one particular video that sat in my drafts for months. And at the time, I still hadn't told any friends, because we're still in lockdown, bearing in mind that I'd actually started this brand. So I was just kind of getting away with doing it at home and no one knowing anything. And I had this video sat in my drafts, and I was saying to my partner, I was like, I really don't know whether I should post it, because this is really saying like, I'm Daisy and I'm the founder of Glow For It. And at the time I was getting messages from people saying like, are you the new social media manager for this brand we'd never heard of? And I was like, I don't know what to do here. But I finally posted it, because I was like, you know what? Get over yourself, Daisy, like, let's just post it. And literally overnight, because it was the first video I'd sat down to the camera, said, I'm Daisy, this is essentially why I'd started this brand. I picked my lashes. This is the transformative results I've had with the product that I've spent years developing. And literally overnight, we sold 6 weeks worth of product in 24 hours. And bearing in mind, also at that time, I had no infrastructure around me. So I am packaging the orders from my mum's kitchen. Also at the time, I had a full-time teaching job. So I was teaching in the day and then packaging orders till the early hours of the morning. So it was absolute chaos and carnage.
How long did that go on for? Surely it couldn't have been too long before you quit your job and went full time, if you're kind of selling at that rate.
Probably too long, to be honest, because I think I just still had, and I still to this day do have it, this feeling that it could all be taken away overnight. So,
which I think most founders do keep that for a long time.
And I do think it's important, because you never rest on your laurels. You're always actively thinking about every decision you make and the long-term consequences, you know. But yeah, definitely for too long, I was too fixated on the logistics, the customer service, you know, all those day-to-day tasks that were actually holding me back. And I'm sure it's a story you've heard over and over again. But yeah, I carried on packaging those orders for way too long. But I was also 21 and didn't know much else. You know, I didn't know any logistics companies. And actually, I'll tell you this, because I remember I was in my bedroom and I called a fulfillment centre. And then he said to me, he was like, okay, so what's the proportions you do? Are you mainly D2C or B2C? And this is how little knowledge I had. I literally was on my laptop like, D2C meaning, and then B2C meaning. And I was like, I'm just going to need 1 minute to answer that question for you. And then I was so panicked that I just hung up, because I was like, I don't know.
Oh, that's so good.
So I just knew I knew nothing. And I think back now, like sometimes I'm like, oh, I still know nothing about the industry and I've got so much to learn. And that is still true. But then I just remind myself, you know, there was a time you didn't even know what D2C meant, Daisy. Yeah. You're going to learn as you go. And I think as long as you're open to that, you know, It's
sink or swim, starting any business. You know what I mean? Like you'll learn more over your first 6 months of running a business than you will over 4 or 5 years of just working in any other career.
Yeah.
I also think those are early days of packaging, hands-on with the product. Like you lose that so quickly and you can learn so much just from that exposure in the early days.
And I think, to be honest, we then kind of went to the other scale of things where we were doing so much volume on TikTok, like just crazy volume of product sales that, again, I was suddenly starting to feel out of control because I wasn't hands-on with that process anymore and couldn't be. But we'd gone so night and day that, you know, no matter what scale you're at, you're still trying to navigate and making sure it's as personable as possible. So it's always a challenge.
Yeah. So the early years on TikTok, where were most of the sales been driven from? Was it just kind of like using TikTok as an awareness channel, driving people across to your website from there? Like this is kind of before TikTok Shop would have come
Before
around.
TikTok Shop, yeah. So yeah, when I say that video actually that really blew up, that was pre-TikTok Shop. So that was an organic video posted on the algorithm, and literally I would have to put a link to our website in the comments and keep pinning it so people could find. And we still had those results and people were being directed to our website, and we didn't even have ads set up at the time. So all of that was just like purely organic. I didn't know how to run a TikTok ad. Then we were invited, because of our traction on the platform, to kind of be in that first wave of TikTok Shop, and that is really where everything changed, you know.
It just goes gangbusters from there a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they came to me and said, okay, the videos you're posting anyway, you can just tag the product and people can shop it directly in the channel. It's a no-brainer. I was posting the content anyway. People were asking where they could purchase the products, and I was having to redirect them to our website. What do you mean they could just shop it directly in here, and we're losing kind of multiple click-through opportunities for people to drop off? It was incredible. And because we were part of that early adoption, we had, you know, so much traction. And at the time, TikTok were putting so much into the brands that were kind of really paving the way. So it was an incredible time, and we were just seeing some crazy stats that I was struggling to get my head around.
So obviously, like, diversification on the channel side of things is a big thing for you guys now, because biggest following when you look at it is obviously TikTok for good reason. But are you putting a big emphasis on like trying to build up an audience across like other social platforms and work on things like SEO, all that sort of stuff at the moment?
Yeah, it's so important. And I think the big thing we see from TikTok is that halo effect. And I know it's what so many people talk about. But I know when we even spoke to Boots, they were like, your organic Google search is crazy. And I literally have people from Amazon knocking down my door because they're like, do you understand how many people are searching for your product? Because they have heard of us on TikTok. So we've got that brand awareness, that entry place on that channel. And now it's about how can we capitalize that across channels. And as any business, you don't want to be wholly reliant on any one platform or channel, as amazing as TikTok has been for us. So yeah, definitely diversifying that.
Have you felt that halo effect from being in Boots kind of on the other channels as well then?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. We obviously only just launched last month, and kind of that first physical retail space has been on my mind map for
it's a huge milestone for any brand. Yeah.
And the huge thing about Boots for us is although they are trying to tap into more of that Gen Z younger customer, which actually, interestingly enough, we've done a lot of work on our customer base, and we thought it was a lot more Gen Z than it actually is. You know, even on TikTok Shop, we're sitting at way more that millennial kind of and older demographics as well. So interestingly, but Boots offers that whole new channel and experience and shopper. And I went to their trend report recently, and don't quote me on this, but I think 85% of people in the UK live at least a 10-minute drive from a Boots. So like that's an incredible amount of potential eyes on your brand. So yeah, huge opportunity to also grow that market share as well.
Well, there's a huge cohort of consumers who like probably skewing a little older, who just want to physically touch the product before they buy it online. So you feel like if they interact with it in Boots, they'll come to the website and maybe buy it after.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the Advantage card is like the #1 subscription kind of card in the UK. Like the amount of data they have and the amount of customer base, it's like incomprehensible as a business of my size. And what I've been really shocked about is just the way they're really triumphing brands like mine. I've met Mitchell on multiple occasions now, and obviously he is just such a inspiration. What he's built with Made by Mitchell is like phenomenal. But the amount they're putting into TikTok brands, trending brands, but just brands that have a true finger on the pulse and are really reactive. And I think that's the key difference. Like the scale and size we are at, we can be so reactive within our team to make sure not only we're putting the best content out there, but we're kind of engaging with our community in a completely different way to what has been done historically. And I think it's great to see that the retailers are also aware of the impact of that.
And what size is your team now? It was obviously the 2E at the beginning, but...
So we're 10 now, so we're currently at capacity for our office, but we've already got probably at least another one hire that's probably needed in the next 5 months in mind.
Where are they kind of working across? Is it mostly on the marketing side? Or
so we were from the start very heavy on the marketing side, as you can imagine. But my 2 most recent big hires have been CFO and operations manager. So like was quickly aware of the gaping holes within the business. And I think that's easy to do also as a founder. Like I thrive in those conversations about brand and marketing.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to kind of prioritize your time there when actually the time needs to be prioritized, or the skill set that's needed to balance me out is in those other aspects of the business. So they've been our kind of real emphasis in the last year.
Also great to have done everything though. You know, like we were chatting with, do you remember Connor Martin from the Essence Vault?
Oh yeah, he was
Yeah. So we were chatting with Connor a couple of weeks ago, and he managed every element of the business himself from the beginning. And he was saying like the biggest advantage that he kind of took from doing all of that is when you bring people on board, you find out very quickly if someone's a spoofer or not. Because you've done it yourself, you kind of know at least to a certain level what needs to be done there. So you're just always trying to hire people that are better than you at that specific task. It's
so true. And he's obviously such an inspiration as well. What he's built is absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest change I've noticed. You know, for so long I did, and this isn't to toot my own horn, like I had to do everything, you know, I had to be looking at our P&L, and I had to also be checking our email marketing campaigns. You know, you have to do everything. One that really quickly gives you an understanding of where your own skill set lies. And also, yeah, as you say, you can quickly notice if someone comes in and they aren't the real deal. Yeah. And I feel like we're now at a place where I look around at my team and I'm like, wow, every single person. And it's taken a long time to build that up. Yeah. But I look around and think everyone here is really great at what they can do. And also with the nurturing that we're able to give them, I can see that they can continue to grow and thrive, which is really exciting, because I think equally everyone on the team is really in it for the long term and just part of that journey. And I think that's something that you can't buy in an employee. Like the fact that they are all nearly, it's hard for anyone to be as invested as you as a founder, but truly feel like they're part of that long-term journey, which is exciting.
Yeah, amazing. Just to go on to TikTok Live, which is a big thing I want to chat about.
Yeah.
It is, we were looking at like some live streams from you guys, but also just from like kind of like Chinese live streams earlier on. Wild how much that space has like grown over the last couple of years. And again, you guys are like real early adopters in terms of doing that well over in the UK. Where do you think they kind of fit in terms of brands in the UK fit in terms of adoption at the moment? Are we kind of lagging behind, or?
I mean, I think for me personally, there's so much I don't know about business, and I am such a sponge to whoever I can learn from. But if there's one thing that I will give us our pat on the back for, it's the way that we responded to the different channels available through TikTok. So yeah, live has been hugely successful for us. I think to put it into perspective, about this time last year, we were going live once a week, not making much revenue from it at all. I was really starting to question whether that channel was a long-term stream of income for us. Should we just utilize that budget that we were spending on the presenters and the time in that studio space back into ad spend, because we could quickly see a return on that. Spoke to TikTok. Instead, we decided, okay, let's go live every single day for an entire month and then see if we're feeling the same. By the end of that month, we'd seen a complete kind of 180 in terms of results, far more reliable and dependable return. And then we were seeing those true spikes of crazy return as well. And I'm by no means saying it's still a reliable source of income. It can be turbulent, but I think, again, to put it into perspective, we had a showcase live last Friday where we did 6 figures in the 12 hours.
That is wild.
Wild, like literally
amazing.
Wild. We sold a product every 19 seconds, of which probably 50% of those were bundles, and bundles including like 6 or more products with a £60 RRP. So like, when you actually get into the granular details of what these lives can do, and again, I'm no means at the top end of that scale. Mitchell's making £1 million in 12 hours. P. Louise made 2.2 million in 12 hours. Like, it is mind-blowing, the potential opportunity of it. And I think, again, people are still lagging on that early adoption when it comes to the lives. You know, TikTok Shop is now incredibly saturated. Still, TikTok Lives, I feel, is slightly untapped by the UK market. I mean, definitely over in Asia, they're making £1 million an hour. Like, it's crazy the money they're making on these lives. And I think for us personally, we now, one, treat it as a completely separate stream. We've got a live studio that Glowfret owns. We have 12 live presenters, and that goes into a forum and everyone can put their slots of availability in. Like, it runs as like a separate kind of entity of the business, which is crazy. And at one time, our kind of standard room rate is about 500 people, and that would be like having a retail space with 500 people in your room at one time.
That's a really interesting way of looking at it, actually.
Literally, and people's average watch time on a live typically is about 30 seconds. So you're getting 500 people potentially every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Now, we've managed to get that up to about 5 minutes, which is a strong kind of amount of time people are staying in that room. But still, it's just a colossal amount of people that even through ads, and it's getting more competitive and expensive to advertise on TikTok, you couldn't be targeting that many people, or you'd have to spend a lot to. So it's an amazing channel and opportunity. And we treat it, to be honest, as a Q&A forum directly with returning customers, but also about 70% of our viewers in our lives are new customers. So that's a huge pool of people that you can literally directly answer any questions or queries they have about your product face to face. Like, you can't do that on any other channel.
Did you ever present them yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Is that how it started? You were doing all of it?
Oh, yeah. Back in the day, it was tripod, mum's kitchen, and I was there chatting through every product. And I often say, because to brand founders who either aren't comfortable with doing that or can't see how they could fit that into their routine, I get it. Because there's no way I go live now, I say to the team, you can have me once a month, and I'm not trying to be harsh, but they are intense. It's exhausting because you are giving that performance. But now we have a team of live presenters who are, frankly, as recognisable as I am to the brand. You know, they've got as many loyal followers as maybe I do as the founder and face of the brand. So you can really build up identities for these presenters, and they can have crazy results as well. So
full circle though, your drama education coming back into live stream performances.
That's what my mum likes to say. We've got the money out of it somewhere. No, it is, because it is a performance. So yeah, you do have to bring that energy. And our last one we did, we called it the Glow Show. So it was like performances, and we were doing MT songs, and it was but people loved it. So I think you just got to have fun with it.
So are these continuous live streams that kind of go on over like a 6-hour 12-hour period with just new presenters slotted in, or do you do you go live every couple of hours with like a different stream?
So we go live every single day. If you went onto our channel, probably someone would be live right now. We typically go live for at least 3 hours a day, and that's kind of, I would say, the maximum amount of time for one presenter, because by the end of 3 hours, you are exhausted. But twice a week, we do 12-hour lives. So those are longer live streams. And so our showcase live was 12 hours. And in theory, people should be switching out every 12 hours. But for those showcase ones, they kind of like to see myself and Thomas in for the majority of those 12 hours. So they can be exhausting, but you see crazy results.
What are you talking about for the majority of it? Is it just a case
Lord
of like
knows.
keep
I've never
chatting?
watched one back, and I don't want to, because I'm probably just waffling and babbling. But you get a stream of questions coming through constantly. So someone might say, I'm struggling with postpartum hair loss. What would you recommend? So you've always got kind of that response from your customer.
Question, other than increasing the frequency of what you were doing them in the early days, was there anything else you changed or tested that caused kind of a step change in performance?
Yeah, I think a few, tips for the lives. One, we do utilise a lot of performers as our live presenters, because you do have to have the energy there. But there's so many things you can do. Like, we do live exclusive bundles. So those are bundles, for example, with our live we just did. We did it in collaboration with Kyra May, who's the TikTok Creator of the Year. And people literally had the limited 12 hours to shop that unique bundle that she'd built out herself. Another successful thing we find works really well is we do a deal or no deal or a poll for a particular product, and then the audience in the room vote, and then they're staying in your room for longer, and then at the end, whatever wins, that's the product that you're going to do a price drop on for 30 seconds only. So you might take £5 off of it for 30 seconds, and you'll find that by the time people have watched for that amount of time, they're so invested in it that they'll often shop because they've got 30 seconds to buy the product in that time frame. So there's loads of ways you can build a sense of hype, urgency, momentum. But yeah, overall, I would say that consistency is probably the most important thing.
Do you need quick engagement once you go live, or it dies off? Is it kind of similar?
Yeah, that's a really key point. So they do say that typically that first 10 minutes is kind of your like gold zone. If you get a high conversion rate or a high entry room rate in that first 10 minutes, that's going to kind of sustain the momentum for the rest of the live. So normally as soon as we go live, we'll set a giveaway, which is essentially a free product, but it's open to anyone. So they don't have to have placed an order, because that's keeping people in the room. And in that first 10 minutes, we're getting strong amount of shares, strong amount of entry room rates. There's other things you can play around with, like £1 drops, etc. For us and our price point, it's just not manageable. Yeah. But often in that first 10 minutes, we might do a £1 drop on an accessory like our scrunchies or something, just so that we can get that high level of transactions through in those first 10 minutes. And then you'll find that TikTok within the algorithm will keep pushing you for the rest of the live. But if you have, a slow first 10, then it can be a struggle to get that entry room up.
When is the peak point in the week, or like the busy hours?
It's interesting. And that's something that we found like just through consistency. TikTok recommend that if you're going to going live at the same time every day. So for example, we go live from 5 to 8 every single day. And I think that's more so one for the algorithm, but also for the customer or the user to know, oh, it's 5 o'clock, Glowfoot will be live again today. So that consistency. We find that often if you do a power hour between 11 p.m. and midnight, you can see spikes, because I don't know about you, but that's when I'm scrolling on my phone and shouldn't be. So often people are about to fall asleep, quick purchase before bed. Lunchtime. So yeah, you find those kind of key points. But they do say a minimum of 3 hours for the algorithm to really learn kind of who they should be pushing towards your room. And then the other key thing is to be posting, especially for those showcase lives, posting content throughout. For the showcase lives, they say about 2 videos every half an hour. So it's a lot of prep that goes into those, often directing people to the live. They'll start to circulate those videos more. And now we tap into that with like live shopping ads as well. So you're getting that extra momentum. But yeah, posting the content's key.
You mentioned getting the viewer time up from 30 seconds to 5 minutes, which by the way is incredible.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Is that one of the key metrics you look at when you're looking at performance?
Yeah, and it's not only one that we look at, but it's something that TikTok look at as well. So if they can see that you've got a strong retaining customer window, they're pushing that because they know it's engaging content that you've got. So again, it's something that's taken time to build up. I'm trying to think the key ways that we do it. To be honest, you have to remind yourself that essentially every 30 seconds you could have a new person in your room. So although you maybe feel repetitive, you kind of have to be. Like I sometimes feel like a broken record, but if someone's just come in, are you reminding them on what deals they have available today? For our big lives, we often have prizes available for people to win. What do they have to do to enter? What are we offering today? Who's appearing on the live? How are you keeping people in that room and that space?
Do you ever have people from your own team that are kind of popping in, or people from your community that pop in to ask certain questions?
The team, I think one thing we've really captured and utilised is the EGC. Yeah. And in transparency, like anyone who joins the team, quite frankly, has to be open to that. And I know that wouldn't work for every business, but it is so fundamental to our entire content strategy, because people see members of the team as an extension of the business. So often, many people in the team started out as live presenters. I then quickly spotted the skill set there, and then they've kind of built into more full-time roles within the team itself. So yeah, three of our full-time employees are also not constant live presenters, but when it comes to those showcase lives, will come in. And yeah, when it comes to the customers, we have, I could name 10 off the top of my head now, but who are there from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. every single day. Crazy. It's unbelievable.
Incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You just don't see that sort of like engagement with most communities, you know, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and often I think, why are they watching it for so long? But actually, when we speak to them, it's just that consistency, the engaging content, and also that relatability. We're asking, oh, Charlotte, have you got your little one to bed yet? You know, they've got that friendship, and that's ultimately what it is. It's a Q&A directly with your customer. How was your day today? Yes, we're trying to use it as a platform to convert customers and make sales, but ultimately it's building those relationships with our customers and potential customers as well.
Yeah. How many products do you guys have at the moment? Is it?
We've got about 15 SKUs.
Okay.
So yeah, not a huge product range.
And does TikTok Live play a big role in kind of deciding new products that you're going to go and work on?
Yeah, I mean, quickly people will tell you what product they want to see from you next. So yeah, we utilize kind of all opportunities to find out from our customers what they want to see next. But yeah, TikTok, comments, lives, that is kind of the key place or forum where people can, and we're very open to it as well. You know, what do you want to see from us next? And it's really
just
useful,
push
valuable.
for as much feedback as possible.
Yeah, the feedback is the most valuable information you could get from your customer, and we've learned so much. I will, caveat by saying, you know, lots of people might say they want a product, but when it comes down to it, suddenly that product's not shifting, but everyone wanted it. So we use that information now, but I think I was very, very led by it to begin with, whereas now I'm kind of trying to go back to my gut and my instincts and where I want the brand to be and what I want it to represent in the future. Because, I'm sure everyone would love to see a Glow For It foundation, but for me, that's not where the business is lying. We're not a makeup brand. So, I think ultimately as a founder, you kind of know what's best.
The direction of the business has to go, for sure.
And I think I have got distracted by that in the past, because you're on platforms like TikTok constantly being bombarded by this feedback and this information, which is so valuable that often you can kind of get lost from your true course. But
for sure. Any other live channels you have your eye on at the moment? So there's a few new platforms beginning to kind of pop up around the place. Are you going to start exploring those at some point?
I think, to be honest, we're so open, and I think that's one of the beauties of being at the size and scale we're at. We can be so reactive and we can test out channels, and if they don't quite work for us, it's not really the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world at all.
So we've had quite a few conversations about the live shopping that you can do, and you can stream through Shopify, obviously. Kind of would be a bit of a no-brainer for us, because we've already got the infrastructure built around kind of being able to produce those lives in-house. And also our Shopify customer is so different to our TikTok customer. So definitely trying to explore ways that we can continue to engage that customer and shopper in new ways. Always open to me.
When you say that customer is different, is it down to the products that they're buying, the AOV in each purchase, kind of what?
Yeah, a big thing is the AOV, and I think we're working hard to increase that on TikTok, but still, I think as a platform, it's somewhere that people, definitely for us, are still quite discount incentivized, whereas on our website we offer subscriptions, which is a huge kind of push point for us. Obviously we've got the LTV there. The AOV is definitely higher on our website, and typically from the customer research we've done so far, a slightly older customer demographic as well, with different pain points. I thought a lot of our customers were buying Glow For It because, like me, they wanted the physical confidence boost. And it is still translating with the Shopify customer, but we're just finding a lot of it is mums who have suffered postpartum hair loss, or maybe women who are slightly older and kind of really starting for the first time to question their physical appearance and reminiscing on what their lashes and brows look like in their youth. So like we've got a huge different kind of marketing tack towards that customer, which has been really interesting to discover. You know, it's not just people shopping it because it's a trending product and they want to get some longer lashes. There's more depth to it, which is great.
Yeah. Do you tend to see though that people that purchase through TikTok return as customers, or does it tend to be more kind of
again that's an elephant in the room? It's the number one pain point with TikTok. Obviously we can't hold that customer data. Obviously we can try our best to convert them to web and to create that LTV, but it's very hard to kind of sync up how strong that returning customer rate is, which is why for us personally, we just kind of keep them as two separate entities within the business. And I think it's very useful for us to view it like that. We've got our Shopify customer, we've got our TikTok customer. Amazing if we can kind of convert them across, but ensuring that that customer journey on Shopify is as thorough as it can possibly be. And then the same going with TikTok within the remits that we have available. So that's the challenge.
So on TikTok Live, or on TikTok Shop, what is the reporting like that you get? Because obviously the comments are coming in very fast.
Yeah.
So are you getting like something you can download afterwards to go through those comments?
Oh, you get an incredible amount of data when it comes to the reports and the analytics of the video performance, the content performance, but when it comes to the actual customer demographic, no. And when it comes to the customer data, even less. So if it came to us wanting to retarget that customer on email marketing, it's not feasible or possible, which is why it's very difficult to pinpoint your returning customer rate on TikTok compared to Shopify.
I mean, you hear the exact same thing with Amazon.
Yeah.
That you hear people putting in like QR codes in the packaging.
Yeah.
So that they can figure out who that person was after the purchase.
Yeah, it's more in depth for you to do on a brand side. And I think that's one of the things that scared so many people away from TikTok. And I've heard so many brands say that it's a scam and whatnot. I understand where that mindset comes from, but I think, like I've mentioned it before, but the halo effect is undeniable. So I often think if I had had that thought or opinion about TikTok in the early days, would we be in store at Boots now? I hope one day, but I think we'll be really kind of trying to knock that door down. So many things. But I think, would we have as strong a presence on Google? Would we have that customer base even on our Shopify? You know, I think.
So brand awareness is probably the biggest thing that you get from it.
Yeah.
You also feel like, I know TikTok tend to be younger, lower AOV, discount heavy, but like in 4 or 5 years' time, they'll be finished college, working professional jobs, and they'll have the budget, and you'll be the brand that they were using the whole way up. You know?
It's like that whole Abercrombie and Fitch thing. I don't know if you saw that, but it was like Abercrombie and Fitch didn't get a new customer and a new sense of style. Their customer just grew up, and they weren't suddenly wearing huge branded logo T-shirts anymore. They were wearing a nice crisp white shirt and some denim jeans, you know, and then they learn and they followed what their customers' trends were. So absolutely, there's the benefit.
I'll shamefully admit I lived in Abercrombie back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like I lived in it.
The pitch black.
The bigger the moose, the better. Like,
But there you go. But would you wear that now?
I do wear it now. Yeah.
Abercrombie, but not the big moose, I'm saying.
Not the big moose.
Yeah.
Absolutely not the big moose. But like, I'm actually wearing quite a bit of Abercrombie clothes these days. Like, it's nice. It's unbranded. It looks great. The quality is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up, I suppose.
Exactly. And that's what's important. Yeah. And that's the customer. And I think I'd be, again, naive to sit here and say, it's the halo effect. We get a great amount of revenue from TikTok, and that allows us to reinvest into our new product development, all aspects of our customer journey, the community. So I don't want to sit here and say, like, I just do TikTok for the halo effect. Like, we get 6 figures in 12 hours on a live. Like, that's an incredible amount of revenue that I can then reinvest into the business. So yeah, there's that as well.
Yeah. So next 18 months, what does that kind of look like in terms of where is your focus going to be? And also any new kind of markets that you're looking at? Obviously the US is going to become a focus.
Yeah.
What's the plan?
The plan. So overall, our plan is to just get back to our roots. And I think, again, a bit like I was touching on earlier, people want so much from you and new opportunities and new avenues, but actually we know how to give you amazing results for your eyelashes, and not just results for your eyelashes, how that's going to impact your confidence and the way you feel about yourself, and you can stare at someone in the eyes and feel confident in who you are. So that is the essence of what Glow For It is all about. So really getting back to the root of the products that we're developing, do they give our customers that feeling? And if they don't, it's not worth our time bringing it out. And I think that's taken a full kind of 360 approach, in that we suddenly had the revenue to invest in these exciting new avenues and these exciting new opportunities. But actually, when we did a huge piece of customer market research recently, we asked over 100 customers what they want to see from Glow For It next, and the highest reported answer was nothing. They don't want to see anything new. They just want us to do what we do really bloody well. So that is where we're readdressing all of our focus. So from that perspective, getting back to the roots, quite literally, opportunity in Ireland, if we can try and have, obviously TikTok Shop is just launched in Ireland, so we're trying to be that early adopter as well within that market and that platform. And still, we're finding particularly our hero SKU, which is our lash serum, is still a new-ish product for that market. So we're getting back almost to the core of those educational pieces of content that, to be honest, we've not had to post in the UK for years now, but we're having to do that again in Ireland. So kind of going on that journey. And then, yeah, as you've touched on, the US.
Yeah, daunting, but a big opportunity.
Yes. And I think for me, if I thought that like the lash serum market was big here in the UK, it's nothing compared to the US. Like, they are very familiar with that product. Yeah. So again, it's not going to be about educating people on how they can get the results. It's why our serum is different to what's currently available out there. Made and formulated will be in the US directly, UK owned business, vegan society, Leaping Bunny approved, prostaglandin analog free, all of that wealth that I feel like we can bring to that market. So yeah, that is the opportunity. And yeah, it's daunting, but I'm excited and I'm ready for the ride.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you popping on.